Good morning. Good afternoon, rather. Not true, Azhar. But obviously, both have been written by me, so there would be intersections, but not every C exactly the same. Ancient medieval is quite different. Modern India, there would be intersections. That's it. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. That is the basic point for that book. Revision. We'll wait 2-3 minutes and then we'll start. We have to complete a very small section. Regional inequality, then land reforms, then what we call as political currents. No questions have been coming from here generally. And last is wars. So regional inequality, we have to basically cover the concept of how did we tackle it. Land reforms, how successful was it? And political and current wars is straightforward, very simple. All the best, Prerna. Concentrate on that, do well. I've only received 3 questions for the doubt section. Shraddha, Nikita, Ashe. That's it. So our doubt session is going to be quite small, I think, and we will most probably take 3 hours, 3.5 hours for this. Then doubt session half an hour should be over. So we should be over by 4:30 or maximum 5 o'clock. Maximum 5 o'clock. So we'll not go the whole distance. If there are no questions, you have to email your questions. There have been none. So therefore, we take it in that context. Okay. Okay, we start now because we waited enough, I think. So we can now start. Good evening, good afternoon. Okay. So our first, so if you remember, there were 3 modules to post-independence. I've discussed the 2 most important modules with you on Monday and Tuesday, which is princely state, reintegration, partition, and challenges. And we've also discussed official language issue. Along with that, we've also covered the issue related to reorganization, which is linguistic reorganization and the 4 phases of reorganization. Most of the questions come from this area, as you can see it yourself, that previously what questions we've seen it from this area only. 2 questions, one in 2021 and one in 2018. One was that discuss the reintegration of princely state issues and socio-cultural problems, and the other one was on the concept of creating new state, that is creating new states beneficial to the economy or not. And we discussed that if it can do any form of good, then sure. If not, it is then a basic burden on the public exchequer. So the questions are mostly coming from this area itself. And I would request you not to go to 2014, 2013, 2012 to look for questions, because that was a different era altogether. Since 2014 itself, post-independence has been shrinking and the questions have been revolving around these 4 modules itself. So we start a module number 3, which is basically a filler module in a way that brings everything up to speed in a way, but is not very exam relevant. So what my basic request to you is going to be that you will just listen to me, enjoy it, and have a basic idea. Some of it you have already done also. For example, regional inequality, land reforms. When we talk about political currents, emergency has been already taught to you. I'll try to give you the larger picture, bird's eye view of what was happening generally in India. And why is, for example, 1967 considered a very important election phase or election itself generally. So when we talk about our first module, the first module is called regional inequality. Regional inequality means that within India itself, today we have multiple zones which are out of sync with each other. For example, you have states such as Rajasthan, such as MP, such as Bihar, such as Jharkhand. You have Chhattisgarh. You have, for example, West Bengal now, Orissa. These states, vis-a-vis, if you see it, for example, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Haryana, etc. If you see these states, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, here you can, Telangana comes in between, but Telangana is also here. If you see these different states, if I look at the state GDP, there's a major difference between the state GDP of both of them. This is called regional inequality. That certain areas in India are going forward, certain are going, or where they are, or they are going backwards in a way. And this way, regional inequality is something which persists in India today. And we also need to understand how does it stack up with everything. And okay, if it is regional inequality, what is the origin of this? What is the origin of this? Can anybody tell me what is the origin of regional inequality? What is the origin of regional inequality? Poverty, Ankita and Prerna, very good. Colonialism, British, language, British empire, certain extent, unemployment, British progress program. See, as some of you have pointed out, it's not religious, it's not like that. It's actually colonial. Can anybody tell me what is common to Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, Orissa? Anybody tell me what is the common to these states? Colonially. They all are permanent settlement areas. And therefore, colonial policies put these areas quite backward. And therefore, when we talk about the Indian subcontinent, one of the worst systems, be it Rayatwari or Mehalwari not being better enough, but mostly the concentration of poorer states in permanent settlement areas. In permanent settlement areas, we have seen that there is a lot of inequality, there's a lot of poverty. They were worst affected by famines also. And therefore, the states which emerged out of these areas have a historical burden, of very low productivity, and no industries. Now, what is even more interesting is that if I look at the data from the 1948-47 period, only 3 zones in India had actually developed. One is Calcutta, the other is Bombay and Madras. The 3 colonial cities are the 3 areas where most of the mills and industrial power was in a way concentrated, and therefore Bombay, West Bengal, for 59% of the total industrial assets and 64% of all national industrial output used to come from these 2 areas, which is West Bengal and Bombay. That way, West Bengal has gone backwards, but Calcutta and Bombay and Madras, 3 cities were used to be the hub for everything. But if you look at it in a larger perspective, if you look at per capita income, which is the income of every person of that state, West Bengal, Punjab, and Bombay had very high. 300 rupees was a very big amount in 1949. 353, 331, 272. And you contrast it with Bihar, Orissa, and Rajasthan, and you get a totally different picture. That the highest state 353 and the Rajasthan sector 173. The Rajasthan sector generally because of the princely states being there. The fact of the matter is that historically people talk about regional inequality in such a way that they talk about it as in the current perspective. No, it's not in the current perspective. Rather, it should be linked and it should be understood as a colonial giving itself. Now, the question is, how have we tried to manage it? How have we tried to manage it? We know that there is regional inequality. We know that one part of the country is stagnating or going down, and we know that the other part of the country is going forward and is getting all the FDI, it's all getting all the state GDP is also concentrated there. It is developing also at very high pace. Now the question was, how have we tackled it between 1947 and 1991? This is the question. Can I tell you the strategies? Do we understand the issue? Do we understand the issue that it is regional inequality? The question is, how have we managed it? Yes, very good. So let's talk about the first strategy. The first strategy which was applied by India was called the Finance Commission. What article is Finance Commission? Article 280 of the Constitution. Now, Finance Commission Article 280 was the first way the government tried to manage regional inequality, and regional inequality was managed via what we call as allocation of funds. Allocation of funds. Now, what is the job of the Finance Commission? The Finance Commission does something called vertical and horizontal devolution of what is called the divisibility pool. The divisibility pool. Divisibility pool is basically the pool which is the taxes collected. Because the income tax is collected by the center, there are multiple taxes which are collected by the center on the behalf of the state. So taxes collected is a divisibility pool. Now the Finance Commission, first job of the Finance Commission is that, one second. First job is that it divides between center and state. And then state. What is the division right now? What is the division right now? What is the vertical devolution? Very good. 41% is towards the states, 59% is with the center. Now the concept was it used to be 42-58. But since the UT of Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir was added, 1% was given back to the center. This means that if 100 rupees is the divisibility pool, 59 rupees is given here, 41 rupees is given here. Now, vertical devolution has nothing to do with regional inequality. It is rather how the money allocated, which is 41 rupees, how is it actually transferred to each and every state, which is called horizontal devolution. Horizontal devolution, state allocation, is quite important that way. Now there are multiple indicators here. For example, and the forest, the size of the population, the basic historical burden. You have demographic indicator which was added recently in the 15th Finance Commission, area, this and that. But mostly the Finance Commission tries to do what is called as fiscal justice. Should the state which is getting a lot of money in state GDP get also the highest under the Finance Commission? No. So the fiscal justice aspect is the more the state is poorer, the more the allocation. So it's the way that if you are very good performing state, the allocation is mostly a little bit lower. However, Finance Commission and its multiple grants to the poorer states has failed to meet the regional inequality gap. Can anybody tell me why? Why is that the Finance Commission failed in meeting the regional inequality gap? Why? Tell me. Very good, Prerna. Very good. No work, lack of data, criteria, lack of industrialization. No. The reason is very straightforward. Money allocated under Finance Commission was used in revenue expenditure and basically no capital expenditure. They did not try to increase revenue receipts, and revenue expenditure kept on going up. For a person who does not know revenue and capital, revenue is repetitive, non-asset producing expenditure, while capital would be asset producing. Whatever is consumptive goes into revenue. Salaries, pensions, etc. The fact of the matter is these states became complacent. They knew that the Finance Commission is going to give some money, and once the Finance Commission is going to allocate some money, they just basically used up the money in not creating assets, but rather giving it to the salaries and pensions and the interests of the loans which they had taken. So very simply, Finance Commission could have allocated more, but Finance Commission was not able to change the behavior of the states. Basically, being a welfare state, not capitalist. No, Devyani, that's not the point. This is called fiscal behavior. It's called fiscal prudence. Their fiscal prudence was not good enough. And basically revenue expenditure was in ineffective areas. If they had created, for example, bridges, for example, hospitals, schools, engineering colleges, then it would be have given them a larger, or in the long run, better returns. So rather they gave subsidies, they gave freebies, they burnt the cash. Basically, the cash burn is very high. So the first strategy which was applied by India when it came to managing regional equality, do we understand why Finance Commission did not work? Yes? Okay. Now the second is a body which does not exist today, which is called the Planning Commission. Now the body which is there in place of it is called Niti Aayog. Planning Commission used to have what are called 5-year plans. Today we have 3-year, 7-year, 21-year plan. Quite confusing that ways. 3-year, 13-year, 7-year, and 21-year plan. But 5-year plan was that every 5-year plan decided the emphasis. So the fact was on the first 5-year plan, it was decided that close to 55 to 60% of the population is in agriculture. So what happened was that the first 5-year plan gave emphasis to the agricultural sector. You can see the budgetary allocation is much lower than the industry, doubling in agriculture. However, when the first 5-year plan kicked in, the issue was that agriculture was in such a bad state that even allocating or looking it as what we call as a driver of change did not really work. And in the first 5 years itself, we realized that agriculture is consumptive, will not give us growth rate. And therefore comes a very important statistician economist, PC Mahalanobis. And PC Mahalanobis is going to say to Nehru that we need to change our emphasis, and that emphasis change will be here. You can see in the second 5-year plan. In the second 5-year plan, the emphasis totally shifted to industries. Industries, dams as temple of development. The whole system changed with regards to that, wherein now we started with agriculture, but agriculture did not give us any return, so move to industries. We thought that if we give enough emphasis to secondary sector under 5-year plans, we will get return. But this also did not succeed and rather produced something very dangerous in India. The reason why this strategy did not work is because of what is called as the license Raj. Between 1947 and 1991, we had something called the license Raj, wherein the location of the industries was dictated by the government of India via subsidies, the idea of subsidies, tax breaks, and land allocation. So you could easily get a license in poorer states, and this led to Jharkhand, Orissa, Chhattisgarh sector becoming the hub of iron and steel plants. But what the government forgot was these are private enterprises. enterprises on public or tribal land. Can anybody tell me what is the direct impact of this? What is the direct impact of this? The direct impact of this is Naxalism. Naxalism was a product of tribal exploitation and alienation along with displacement. And it is here that we learned that growth and development are not the same thing. They were developing, but growth was negative. And therefore, the government of India's second plan, which was incentivizing private sector in tribal areas, in poorer states, literally backfired because it made these areas even more backward. It made these areas even more backward. And therefore, since independence, since 1947 till 1991, regional inequality was not addressed and remains an issue. Can anybody tell me what is the, and this remains an issue till today, till in 2023, all FDI flows, all investment flows are towards richer states. Gujarat is quite rich, but has 97% of all FDI. Now, what I want to ask you is very simple. What is the emphasis of the government right now? Government of India emphasis, now there's no 5-year plan, emphasis on which sector? And the answer to that is not tertiary, because tertiary sector is not the way to go forward. Which sector is it? You will say MSMEs, you will say manufacturing. Doubling farmers' income. We have realized that agriculture is quite resilient, and throughout the ups and downs of the Indian economy, it has always given us a growth rate of 1 to 5% for sure. So while we have Make in India, while we have MSMEs, while we have PLI, etc., 47% of the population still is in agriculture. And the government has realized that doubling farmers' income is the only way that India can move forward. Because most of our population is still in farming itself. Right? So if there's a question with regards to how we were trying to tackle in regional inequality and how it persists today as a problem, we'll be able to answer. We'll be able to answer. Yes? Perfect. Now comes the second economic topic, which is basically land reforms. Basically, land reforms. Land reforms addresses a very big issue in India, which is land concentration in few hands. If you look at the Government of India data, if you look at the economic survey, it will show you 57 to 60% of all farmers in India are what are called marginal or small land holding type. Meaning they have less than even half an acre, 2-3 katthas, 4 katthas, not more than that, which is quite less. And this was even more problematic because in 1947, this number was 99 of all peasantry was either landless or tenant, and 1 to 2% of the Indian population held most of the land. And these people are nothing but the zamindars and money lenders. And the fact of the matter is, in India, land is a very big prestige issue. Land is a very big prestige issue. Father, son, son, father, uncle, father, 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 any combination of relationship, we are ready to murder for land. Any combination you can have, you will have disputes for sure. Father, son, 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 brother, brother, father, son, any combination, there will be for sure and some dispute. And India, we are ready to kill in the name of land for sure. Now, this obviously is a problem, and therefore, under the mandate of 39 BNC, which is the DPSP, which is non-concentration of wealth in one hands, and the idea of equitable distribution amongst everyone, and removing Article 31 from fundamental rights and putting it into the Article 300 in that sense, basically removing right to property as a specific fundamental right. The government of India has tried to and has been trying to do something about this, and that effort is called the worst of the worst implemented land reforms. If there was a case study on how you should not do land reforms, it was basically India. Literally India. Because the land reforms, one of the worst way ever implemented, with minimal to zero impact anywhere. Now, in India, we are a typical agrarian economy. We have institutional discrepancies because of the colonial structure itself. Socioeconomic inequality, be it poverty, be it inequality, all stem from the fact that people control agriculture too much, and increasing agriculture production can actually be the only way you can make life better for people. Now, we have two issues here. One is that the tenant is exploited. Tenant means malguzar, a person who works on land. Basically, you would know, if you own land, a person who works on your land is called a amalguzar. Tenants or agricultural labor, they work for a certain ratio. For example, 50-50, 60-40, that we will produce something, you get 50%, I will get 50%. But this is not the ratio at this point of time. The ratio was arbitrary, 90-10, 80-20. Then the issue is of rent. This is the issue of rent. How much rent? Thereafter, there was issue of tenure. That I had a tenant for 1 year, then I removed him, then I brought in another tenant, new tenant. Tenant tenure was also a problem. So there were 2 to 3 things which were done. First is the easiest possible, which was removing the 3 settlements which were basically governing the agriculture sector. Zamindari, Mahalwari, Ratwari. This was the easiest. Then when very big hi-fi fundas were talked about, for example, that sharecroppers or the tenants should be given security of tenure and ownership rights should be given to tenants as much as possible. And if you're a zamindar, you should know that if a tenant produces any land for more than 12 years without claiming it, nobody claims that land, it becomes tenant's land itself. So the fixed and rational rate of rent was something which they wanted. And they wanted second, security of tenure and give land to the tenant as much as possible. But the core concept of land reforms was called ceiling laws. Now, basically, ceiling laws was like this. If you go to any part of India, for example, you have one person who has 100 acres. Then you had a person who had 50 acres and 50 acres, very big zamindars. Thereafter, there's a person with 30 acres. Then a person with 20 acres. And then thousands of thousands, if not 100, at least thousands of holdings of 500 people with 1 acre or less than 1 acre. Less than 1 acre. Now, this is basically how Indian landscape looks like also. Now, what the ceiling law said was that we put a ceiling. The ceiling is one person, and this was person, not family. One person or family as a unit, family household, cannot own more than, for example, 20 acres. Now, under this, this person would lose 10 acres. This person would lose 80 acres. This person would lose 40 acres. This person would lose not 30 acres, and this is 30 acres. Now, what would happen is that these 30, 30, 30, 30, 10, 80. This, what is 30, 30, 60, 70, 150 acres. These 150 acres would then be basically redistributed to the people who don't have anything, who do not have anything. So the idea was very simple, that you take from people and give it to the people. This is called redistribution of wealth, redistribution of land. Now, except for Kerala, West Bengal and Andhra Pradesh, ceiling laws were only applied properly here. Other than that, what is common to these three states? Guess. What is common to these three states at this point of time? 1950s and 60s. Yes. Kerala, West Bengal, all were under communist regimes. The Communist Party of India had control over the government, state governments. So that is why ceiling laws were properly applied. Other than these three states, nowhere was ceiling applied properly. And what happened is that in between 1950s and 60s, if your parents or grandparents went under ceiling, you would know a lot of sons were disowned at that point of time, saying that he is not my son. Because if one person holds 100 acres and he had 5 sons, he would disown each one of them, saying that they are not my son. So what would happen is a Batwara, and each of them would get 20 acres, thereby keeping the land within the family itself. There are also fraudulent cooperatives in the way that there was one person with 100 acres and there were 500 different farmers with 50 acres. So they used to become one cooperative. Now it was 501 people for 150 acres. That way it does not fall under ceiling. Ceiling was not applied anywhere in any way or form. The fact was that Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal and Kerala, and partially in Andhra Pradesh, it was never properly applied in areas where land was an issue, which is UP, in Haryana, in Punjab. And the basic point was, this is considered the worst ever land reforms, because tenancy reforms only impacted 4% of the total operational area, and redistribution of ownership only 2%, and overall impact of land reforms was only 6% of all operational area in India. 6%. And the reason is very straightforward. Either there was prestige attached, or there was corruption, or the bureaucrats, the IAS officers and the MLAs did not want to apply it because they were themselves the biggest zamindars. So when it comes to land reforms in India, you have to just write the basic points. What are land reforms? What were the measures? But when it comes to assessment, do not hold back to say that it is the worst implemented and had no real impact. And land till today in India remains an issue. Is there anybody in class who gained and lost land under ceiling? One or two zamindars do emerge in my class always. Gained and lost from Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal. No, no. So no zamindars in class. Don't know. Okay, you don't know. Previously, I had at least 2 to 3 students who had gained and lost both. So there was one student who lost 80 acres, one student who gained 20 acres, something like that. Okay, so we've covered the economic part of the story, which is two basic themes: regional inequality, and you can already see that these are all basic, very simple, straightforward topics, and land reforms. Anybody has any issue in these two? Anybody any issue in these two? Can we say that Daxism in eastern sector is because of, no, it's not because of FDI concentration. It is because of unplanned, what we call as license based industries, in which these greedy industries reach into tribal land. Inequality, land reforms done. Then people having more than 20 acres are frauds nowadays, and land, no. That's not the way. So you do it, you take land from anybody, you'll get shot next day. You'll be picked up from your house, thrown into the Ganga next day. Try to go and become an IS officer. You will, and try to take somebody's land. Either a tractor will hit you, or a truck will come, or something will happen to your family for sure. Land in India is a very bad thing, very very bad thing. Why did Bombay overtook? Bombay was already the fiscal capital. Calcutta was the capital only. So, be it any part in India, UP, Bihar, South Indian states, Rajasthan, anywhere you are, try to apply ceiling today, and you will most probably be not seen next day itself with your family itself. Dur tak they'll be taken away. So don't worry about that. Okay. So two basic topics. Nobody has no issue. Now, I'll give you a 5-minute breather here, because the discussion I need to now have with you is called political currents. It's a very simple, straightforward topic. See, under this government, you cannot expect a question from this area, because this is the story of the INC. So, how INC became the Congress which we know today, Indira Gandhi's action, what Lal Bahadur Shastri did, what, for example, 67 elections happened, how did Bangladesh war win? These are things which most probably examiner will not ask, as it is the paper setter will never, you cannot expect it in this period. But what I will do is that you know these areas because of polity. I'll give you a bird's eye perspective, and I'll tell you why 1967 is considered a turning point. And I will give you a basic story between 1947 to 1975 till emergency. Thereafter, we'll just discuss what happened generally. Yes? Regional equality because of historical burden. Yes. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's take a small 5-minute breather. When we come back, thereafter wars. So we don't have a lot of themes to cover. I will not waste your time if we are able to cover this quickly. And if we have no questions in the what we call as doubt session, I'll leave you early. So don't worry. This is module number 3. So I will not make you sit till 8. Your time is very valuable right now. So I'll try to make sure. I told you this is the most Piddu sir, very small module. As it is, nobody question is asked. Nobody is asking a question. So let's come back at what? 1:55, and then let's take the story forward. 1:55. Yes? Okay. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay. So, one small burst and then wars. So, when we talk about political currents, 1947 to 1950, we are writing the constitution itself. And if you look at the first three elections, 52, 57, and 62, it was obviously dominated by one party, the party which gave you independence, the party which was Nehru's party, Patel's party, Rajendra Prasad's party. There was no way anybody was ever going to challenge in the first three, at least 10, 15 years, the INC, the Indian National Congress, which was formed in 1885. This party was the all-star party itself, and there was no chance that anybody had any real chance against the Congress in the Lok Sabha or in the state elections itself. However, the period between 19, I'm giving you a basic overview. However, the 1963 to 66 to 67 period for the Congress was not very good. Because in 1964, Jawaharlal Nehru will die. And he was then succeeded by a very no-nonsense person, loved by everybody, Lal Bahadur Shastri. And Shastri ji was also respected by everybody quite a lot. So Jawaharlal Nehru was succeeded by a person who was again very, very well respected amongst everybody. But the fact was that in between 1960 and 64, India had gone through a war called the 1961-62, specifically 62, the 62 Sino-Indian War, or what is called the Indo-China War. And whenever there will be a war, there will be a little bit of inflation, a little bit of economic impact. But Lal Bahadur Shastri went through the 1965 Indo-Pak War also. And in the Indo-Pak War, the inflation started to go up, the foreign reserves started to go down rather, and the wartime issues were increasing. And unfortunately, with the end of the Indo-Pak War, we will discuss 65 in the next hour itself. It will end with the Tashkent Agreement in 1966. And Lal Bahadur Shastri will die because of a heart attack in Tashkent itself. And now the Congress within 3 years was now looking for another prime minister. So the first three was very clear that Congress was going to dominate. But when the 1967 elections were coming, there was uncertainty that who will become the prime minister or who should be nominated as the prime minister. And there will be a major tussle between Morarji Desai, a person who always wanted to be a prime minister, and the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi. And Morarji Desai, in a way, made a lot of derogatory statements about Indira Gandhi. He took Indira Gandhi very lightly as a woman, saying that ye chori kya kar legi and this and that. Very derogatory statements. And this chori, in that sense, actually defeated Morarji Desai in a AICC, All India Congress Committee meeting when voting came to that who should be the next prime minister. So the next prime minister in 1967 was Indira Gandhi. We already know that. She then amended the Official Languages Act, which we already discussed. And Indira Gandhi was then faced with the most difficult of all elections, which is 1967. Till Shastri, everything was fine. But 1967 was problematic because now the whole wartime effect and the internal politics of the Congress was in front of everybody. So there were successive failures of the monsoon. Our food security was in question. Widespread drought, decline in agricultural production, food shortages were there, depletion of foreign exchange, industrial production was going down. And 1967 election is believed as the election which changed everything for India and Indian politics itself. Because Between 1952 and 67, we have one party domination. We have one party domination, which is nothing but the INC. But when we talk about 1967, a new idea emerged, which is called non-Congressism, which is emerging today as the concept of non-BJPism. Non-Congressism was who can crook any party with any party, left and right, up and down, north and south, any party. Just make sure that you make the government and don't let the INC make the government. This was called non-Congressism. That let us do anything and everything, and Communist Party of India is going with Jansan. A left and a right party going together just to make sure that the Congress does not form the party itself. And therefore, 1967 is the era in which the lowest tally came in the Lok Sabha election also, and multiple states were lost to the Congress in this process of what we call as coalition politics. Gathbandhan Sarkar. Coalition politics is the first thing which emerged in 1967. 1967 is also the year in which, where in the Madras state, the DMK emerged as a proper regional party which was able to win a whole state itself. Non-Congress party winning a whole state itself. The Communist Party was there in Kerala, but Communist Party was an all India party. When it came to the 1967 elections, though in the Lok Sabha, the Congress was able to get a majority, but just. The fact was that in multiple states, from Rajasthan to Punjab to Uttar Pradesh to Bihar to West Bengal to Odisha to Kerala and to Madras itself, the Congress lost multiple states at this point of time. And this point of time, elections used to happen simultaneously. The state and one nation, one election, state and Lok Sabha election used to happen simultaneously at this point of time. And therefore, though the Congress came in the center, all of these states saw what we call as coalition politics. But whilst coalition politics was one product of 1967, one biggest issue of 1967 was defection. Defection became a nuisance in the 1967 election, in turn leading to the proverbial saying, Aaya Ram Gaya Ram, wherein a person defects when he wins an election with a certain party symbol and he leaves that party and joins another party if the other party is making the government itself. Defection became such a big issue that India had to legislate on it and then bring in anti-defection laws. But 67 forever changed everything because with the rise of non-Congress coalitions, it was very clear that these coalitions are also not going to survive for long. So election played a very important role in making and unmaking the government itself, and defection was a very important process which became a problem for Indian political parties itself. From Haryana to Madhya Pradesh to Uttar Pradesh, one day I am in the Janasangh, tomorrow I am in the Communist Party, then I am in the Congress. I am moving around. And therefore, 1967 is when Indian politics becomes multi-party democratic politics, where now multiple parties are working. But the problem is that if you do something like this, would two incongruent parties, right and left, ever survive over a very long period of time? And the answer to that question is no, because they will fight, and they will fight over certain issues, and they'll make a mess out of it. And this is what happens. But Congress's dismal performance in the 67 elections. Now, if somebody asks you which election in India changed everything, you will say 1967, because that is the only purpose of the discussion. 67 changed election politics in India forever. Now comes a small story which I need to tell you from where from where the syndicate starts to fight with Indira Gandhi until her assassination. Now, this performance led to a major schism between the internal AICC or CWC politics itself. And one side is called the syndicate. The syndicate name is very, very crime mafia type. Syndicate under the leadership of a person called K. Kamraj. And syndicate basically were the MPs of South India. And more or less, K. Kamraj was very, very significant and very important in also installing Indira Gandhi in the way that he did not like Morarji Desai. But because of 1967 elections, there was a rift between the syndicate and Indira Gandhi. Finally, Indira Gandhi started to show that she was not a puppet in the hands of the syndicate, and she was not like her father. Her father was an idealist. Jawaharlal Nehru was an idealist. He believed in a lot of big ideas and concepts itself, which basically lost us the P5 position also. The 1961 war was also like that. Jammu and Kashmir was also lost over that. The fact was, she was a realist. Indira Gandhi believed that you can't win with ideas. Rather, you win with actions. And now, the syndicate and Indira Gandhi start to tussle in between each other. The tussle actually manifests itself in who will become the next president. The syndicate installs a very important, very old leader, Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy. This was the candidate of the syndicate. And Indira Gandhi, making this rift public, nominated V.V. Giri as the presidential position or as the presidential candidate. And ironically, this election was won by V.V. Giri. And with V.V. Giri's election, the INC split into two. Congress O, Congress R. This is the syndicate. This is Indira Gandhi. And Congress O, the Congress original or organization. And they are called the requisitionists. This Congress R is today's Congress. The Congress which you see, this is the INC today. The Haath wala Congress. This Congress is this one. And basically, after 1968-69, there is no one INC, there are two INCs. But the irony of the story is that Indira Gandhi was such a good leader that between 1967 and 71, and with Congress R, and a very interesting slogan, which is Garibi Hatao, she had a resounding victory in the 1971 election. And after 1971, there are two things which happened together. One is Indira Gandhi shows to the world that she was not going to be there just for namesake. And Pakistan got one of the most befitting replies, for which we had an anniversary yesterday itself, which is the Bangladesh War, Vijay Divas, 16th December 1971. And she was able to implement Lal Bahadur Shastri's Green Revolution properly and making sure that the food security of India was secured. Food security was secured. And this was to give Pakistan a befitting reply, which I will teach you after we have completed this section. However, the second thing which was happening under this 1971 politics was that in 1971 and thereafter the next elections which were coming, 1975 elections, 75, 76 elections, The JP movement started, and you would have a very good idea of this because you've already done this in polity, but just to refresh your memory, the JP politics, Jayaprakash Narayan politics, was based on the idea that Indira Gandhi was ruling with too much power. And in Bihar and in UP, specifically in Bihar, a student movement started, wherein the wartime effects of 1971 came through, and generally with unemployment very, very high, student demands not taken into control, the agriculture sector, the green revolution not impacting Bihar and UP that well, there was a lot of opposition which was developing against Indira Gandhi. Now, the most interesting opposition came when a candidate, Raj Narayan, he will put in a petition into the Allahabad High Court saying that Indira Gandhi has been against the sections of the Representation of Peoples of India Act, RP Act 1950 and 51. She had been using state machinery to campaign and win elections. And in June of 1975, the Allahabad High Court is going to uphold the decision that yes, Indira Gandhi had been misusing her power as the Prime Minister and asking an IAS officer to go basically campaign for her in Raebareli. And that in turn led to the Allahabad High Court disqualifying her for 3 years for any position under the RPA itself. As soon as Indira Gandhi gets to know about this High Court decision, she moves towards the Supreme Court, but by the night of that day, she will use Article 352 and a section under it which was called internal disturbance, which has now been removed. What is the word which has been used for internal disturbance now? Which is the word which has been used for internal disturbance? Armed rebellion. Now it is armed rebellion. She uses 352 internal disturbance and she proclaims national emergency. Now between 1975 to 76 and 77, the opposition leaders, even our Prime Minister, today Prime Minister, had to remain underground. Prime Minister Modi, a lot of the Janasangh, which is the BJP's precursor, BJP leaders, Prakash Javadekar, and a lot of others from Arun Jaitley, multiple opposition leaders had to actually remain underground because opposition leaders were either jailed, yes, Advani and Vajpayee itself were jailed or put into house arrest. And after 2 years of emergency, finally in 1977, India went for elections. And later the Supreme Court also upheld that the emergency was claimed under malified intentions, and multiple changes were made to the Indian Constitution itself. And the 1977 elections is going to finally end the domination of the Congress, because in 1977, the Janata Party is going to win the elections resoundingly at the center and in the state level. However, the Janata Party, the problem was it was an amalgamation of 2 to 3 parties. Congress O was also there, the Janasangh was also there. Multiple parties came together. Then the CPI ML came together to create the Janata Party. Now, it is believed that the problem with the Janata Party was that it was the party of prime ministers. So after having our first Prime Minister as Jawaharlal Nehru, then Lal Bahadur Shastri with the interim Gujarilal Nanda, with Indira Gandhi, the next non-INC member, the Janata Party Prime Minister was Morarji Desai. Finally, he wanted to be the Prime Minister. He became the Prime Minister. But after 2 years of him becoming the Prime Minister, now Chaudhary Charan Singh said that it is my turn to become the Prime Minister, and he will then remove Morarji Desai and become the Prime Minister. But now by 1980, just within 3 years of the Janata Party ruling, the cracks between the Janata Party were becoming more and more clear. And what will happen is that in January of 1980, the Janata Party government will get dissolved because of internal factionalism, everybody trying to become the Prime Minister. And in 1980, we will have the interim elections Elections not happening for 5 years, but interim elections. And ironically, the woman who basically was called a monster for putting in the emergency, but the people of India said that we don't want undecisive leadership of Morarji Desai or Chaudhry Charan Singh, and Indira Gandhi is going to come back to power. This is the swagger of Indira Gandhi. This is the swagger of Indira Gandhi, that our Congress are after this point, totally, totally dominated elections, and the Janata Party showed to the people that without Indira Gandhi, there is no India. However, her last stint was very problematic because during Indira Gandhi's what we call as second term, the Khalistan movement will start, which till today is very problematic for India, with Canada and America becoming a hotspot for it. The Khalistani movement was based on the idea that Punjab wanted to go out of, it had reaped the benefits of the Green Revolution. It wanted to secede out of India, become a new country itself. And Indira Gandhi will then sanction a very important army action. It's called Operation Blue Star. Under Operation Blue Star, the Khalistani terrorists had made the Golden Temple itself their hub of activities when it came to Khalistani activities. And she sanctioned Operation Blue Star, under which the Indian army entered the Golden Temple to eliminate the Khalistani terrorists such as Penta and all. Now, in retaliation, Indira Gandhi was assassinated by her two Sikh bodyguards in 84, and she will be assassinated for the Khalistani issue. The next prime minister will be her son Rajiv Gandhi. But the problem with Rajiv Gandhi was that he got embroiled in what is called as the LTTE issues. The LTTE issue, Lankan Tamil Tigers issue. The Sinhalese and the Tamil violence in Sri Lanka is going to become too much at this point of time. And Rajiv Gandhi, rather than supporting, or should have supported, that is totally your call, rather than supporting the LTTE, he will support the Sinhalese government of Sri Lanka. And the LTTE will then assassinate Rajiv Gandhi also. And this was in the news recently because the families of the LTTE terrorists were then released recently. But Rajiv Gandhi, the husband of Sonia Gandhi itself, was assassinated by the Sri Lankan terrorist itself, the father of Rahul Gandhi. Now, after that, for an interim period, we have Vishnu Pratap Singh, then Chandrasekhar. But these two people were not able to manage India when it was going through a spiral. And rather, it will be a person called P.V. Narasimha Rao who will finally take a very important call. And in 1991, with his finance minister, the honorable and the best economist in India till date, Manmohan Singh, he will go for LPG, which is liberalization, privatization, globalization, which changed India forever with the economic reforms of 1991. Then we have Atal Bihari Vajpayee, but Atal Bihari Vajpayee's second stint was very, very important. Kargil War we'll discuss. And in that, we had Devagowda, Gujral Doctrine, and Manmohan Singh UPA government twice. And since then, we have Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has been transforming India from India to New India and taking India to a newer height. Let us see what happens in the next year's election. Most probably, what I believe is that I would not need to change this infographic, most probably. So this 2014 onwards, we believe that this infographic is most probably not going to change. And this basically is the story of political currents. Make sense? This is, as you say, now tell me, do you really think the government is going to ask a question out of this area? It's basically a story of Indira Gandhi. That's it. Okay. So now let's talk about wars. We'll do wars. Then our syllabus will be complete. We'll take a short break. And we will then take the doubts. The rate at which we are going, it will take me maximum till 3:30 to reach the end of wars. Wars is not very long again. And we'll wait for 10 to 15 or 20 minutes. I'll give you a small break. I have here a sheet in front of me which only has 3 people having asking me a question. Shraddha, are you here? Shraddha, are you here? Nikita? Nikita, Shraddha, Nikita, Ashe. So ironically, the 3 people who asked the question are not here only. Beautiful. So if they won't be there by the end of that session, then we'll end for today generally. Acceptable? Because the questions itself are also: what is poll tax? Why is Robert Clive called conqueror of India? What is Swaraj is no changer, pro changer? And if you have a doubt, keep it ready. I'll give you that half an hour where you can ask a question. Please conduct doubt session, sir. Ramya, your doubts are not here. I will obviously conduct the doubt session. Once this is over, then I will. But you had to send me the doubts through email. I will complete this. I will give you 10 to 50. I will give you a break small, and I'll be happy to take your questions for half an hour, 1 hour. Don't worry about that. Okay. Sir, this session will be live till what time? That is totally on us now. 4:30 I have basically scheduled one more class. But the way we are going, I think we don't need that 4:30 class. Are you getting my point? So most probably if these people emerge, we will take it. The way we are going, what did I tell you? I told you that we need 2 classes, 1 to 4, 4 to 8. But we don't really need that second slot. And that will be the case. I'll get that cancelled. Don't worry. We'll take this as the doubt session itself. Can we talk about wars? Yes. And you can do one thing whilst I'm doing wars with you. Again, you have to just to listen to the story. Note down your doubts in a Word file as I'm doing it, or in a WhatsApp it to somebody or something. When I'll ask you, when we'll back from that session, from after finishing this, I'll give you a small 20 minutes break. And there you can just keep all these questions ready and I'll be happy to take it here. But not live questions that I don't feel motivated. Questions related to modern India and post-independence. What we have been doing in class, right? So larger than live questions, I'll take it up in the end. Genuine questions, if you have, Ramya, you keep it. If you've emailed, they have not updated, maybe you just keep the list ready with you. I'll take it as it comes, right? Okay. And if these 3 people are happy enough to or obligate us with their presence, we'll discuss their questions also. Okay. Now when we talk about wars, you want a 5-minute break here? So you don't give revision tips. Revision tip, revise. That is my revision tip. I've given you enough. I have actually given you enough tricks, mnemonics, and ideas to revise. I don't know. You tell me, Megha, what does the revision trick mean? Tip. What is a tip to revise? Revise. That is my tip. Okay. Now, and there should be no tip for revision. It is condensing the data. You have my book if you want to. If you don't have my book, you have the PPT. Read it and that's it. First revision will take 5 days, maybe it will then take 2 days, then 1 day. It will keep on getting lower and lower. Okay. Now, when it comes to wars, India fought the following wars. Fortunately, till this point, we have only fought these wars. And war is never good, so I hope that this list never actually increases. But we fought the following wars. And out of it, this is the only one which is the odd one out, which is China. This is Pakistan. This is Pakistan. This is Pakistan. We had nothing to do with this war only, but somehow Pakistan found a way to make us a part of this also. So, Abhay, you keep the questions ready. You email it. You give it to me here. Don't worry. Now, let's talk about the wars. Now, as it is, we know that the first war pretext was the fact of the matter was, sir, why English has come for spice? Don't email me. Braneet, you keep it here, na? Why are you emailing me? Why English has come for spice? I spice, keep it with you. Keep it with you half an hour, 1 hour maximum. And thereafter, Sayyed, again, keep the questions. I'll do one thing. I'll ask the person to update also. But if you have sent an email, you have it in Word file. You have it in digital form. Just copy, paste it when it will come the time. When the time will come, I will ask you to put your doubts here. Don't worry about that. So whilst I'm doing it, there's no point sending me an email. Okay. So the context of the first war we already know, which is that the fact of the matter being that it's basically Hari Singh's fault that Hari Singh delayed signing the instrument of accession, which basically complicated the way India or Jammu and Kashmir became a part of India itself. And the first war, 47-48, we know got messed up because of the fact that Nehru also took it to the UN. And the basic consequence of this war is what we already know, which is that there's a line here which exists. And this line is called the LOC, the line of control. Now, this line is actually a properly recognized line by the world. It's a ceasefire line. UN recognizes this line. In the POK is an illegally occupied area, but this is the line which we hold. We hold this line, and our army sits on this line. This is the easier part. We already know the context. We already know the concept. We already know how Hari Singh delayed it, 26th October, instrument of accession. And now comes the more interesting but a very weird war which was found, which is the Sino-Indian War of 62. And 1962 is one of the weirdest war we ever fought. By the time we actually started to fight, it was already over. The Indo-China War or the China-India War is based on two pretexts and two basic ideas. The first is the McMahon line. This line, the red line which you see here, is called the McMahon, something like this, sometimes written like this, also written like this. McMahon line. The McMahon line basically is the line which demarcates the line between India and China in the northern, eastern, and in the central sector. But the origin of this line itself is quite problematic because the British actually messed it up as they messed up most of the things for us. The British in 1914-15 wanted to demarcate its territory with China. Now, the northern plateau, the plateau which is above the Himalayas itself, is called the Tibet. It's called Tibet. Now, Tibet claims to be, like Taiwan, an autonomous area of the world. China claims that Tibet is a part of China. Tibet claims it is not part of China, and they have their own spiritual leader who's called Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is like the Pope. He's the spiritual and political leader of, or like the Khalifa rather, not like the Pope. He's like the Khalifa, who's the political and spiritual leader of all Tibetans. And Dalai Lama basically is a Buddhist Lama, sometimes also considered the reincarnation of whom? I've taught you. Dalai Lama is the reincarnation of whom? Bodhisattva. Which Bodhisattva? If you've done ancient medieval art and culture with me. Come on. Only Saloni has answered. Others have not done. Buddha is Buddha. Bodhisattvas are different. Bodhisattva Maitreya. Maitreya is the future Buddha which will come, and Dalai Lama is basically seen as the reincarnation of a Buddhist god. But again, all made up concept. The simple point is Dalai Lama is the political and spiritual leader of the Tibetans. Now, when the Britishers actually had this conference, which is the McMahon conference, the line to be drawn with China, these fools had the viceroy on the one side of the table. But more than that, these fools asked China and Tibet representatives to be theirs. Now, this is for the Chinese, like calling in India, if you have to do a boundary deal with Pakistan, why would you call the CM of Rajasthan? So this conference is like the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and the CM of Rajasthan. According to the Chinese, the Tibetan representative should not have been there in this conference, because at the end of the day, when Tibet is a part of China, how can they be sitting as an equal member? So the concept was very, very simple. China, as soon as they saw the Tibetan person sitting there, they boycotted this. They boycotted this conference. But these fools called the British went ahead and did an agreement with Tibet. And basically, McMahon line is a line which was drawn with British and Tibet, not with China. And that is why till today, China claims that we never agreed to this line, because the Tibetans did. If the CM of Rajasthan or CM of Gujarat go and do a boundary deal with Pakistan, will we ever accept it? Will we ever accept it? Never. This is the equivalent of that. That Tibet has now gone into an agreement with the British, saying, "Ha, yahin se line jata hai," but the line was not something which they agreed to. And that is why, while we claim this red line, the Chinese say that we were never going to agree to this line. Our line goes like this. This is the Chinese accepted line. This line is the Chinese claimed line, which you can see there are two disagreements here. One is in the north, which is Aksai Chin today, and the other one is in Arunachal Pradesh. Because according to the Chinese map, Arunachal Pradesh is part of China, and that whole set is part of China. So now the first issue is McMahon line. Do you understand the issue of McMahon? Why is it there? Why is there a dispute? We claim the red line, they claim the black line. McMahon was between British India and Tibet and not China, because China boycotted it. That is the basic point. Okay. Yes, Chester. Now, this was still okay. India and China had very good relations. I'll tell you what is the present idea. had very good relations between 1950 and 60, very good relations. 50 to 55, 56, Mao was a very good friend of Nehru. We gave up our P5 seat for China itself, which today we regret in that sense. But in 1958-59, something very dangerous happened, where again Nehru did a mistake. In 1957-58, the Chinese started to enter into the Tibetan sector, and their purpose was to capture Dalai Lama. Because if Dalai Lama was caught, all this secessionist idea of Tibet would be gone. Tibet wanted to emerge as a new country. They claim they're in a new country. They're a separate country altogether. Now, what dangerous drama happens and what mistake India does is, Dalai Lama, in order to evade the Chinese, crossed over into India and reached a place called McLeodganj, which is today called Dharamshala. And after reaching Dharamshala, he said to Nehru that I seek political asylum in India and I am the real Tibetan government. Please give me political asylum. Here again, Nehru, rather than handing over Dalai Lama back to China, he said, okay, I give you political asylum. And that is why if you go to Dharamshala, it will say the government in exile of Tibet in front of Dalai Lama's monastery itself. Now, as soon as that happens, now China says that India is doing anti-Chinese activities. How Khalistani movement is basically alive in Canada. This was like a Canada type move, that we allowed Dalai Lama to get asylum in India, and that will basically make the Chinese extremely anti-Indian very quick. From Hindi Chini bhai bhai to now totally different stance itself. And this in turn will then materialize into what asylum means, political refugee. This in turn will then become what is called as the 1962 war. Because once the Chinese will see that the Dalai Lama is sitting in McLeodganj itself, the weirdest war we ever fought was this war, 1962. Because what happens is that today Tibet is called a trump card vis-a-vis India and China. Sure, today I don't care. I'm talking about 62. Today, later, whatever it may be. I don't know how it's a trump card, whatever it may be, but yeah, sure. 1962. Now China, what it does is, in late 59-61 itself, they start to enter in this sector as they do today, which is called incursions. They start to cross over the McMahon line. This was a total intelligence failure, total army failure, total governmental failure, that we had no satellite imagery and we had nothing at all to figure out if the Chinese were coming in or not. And ironically, in 1962, when we got to know that the Chinese had crossed the border, they were already 30 to 50 kilometers inside. And by the time Nehru says that go for forward policy, the Chinese were already 20-30 kilometers inside. We will be able to give resistance, but not very good resistance in both sectors. We will actually be able to give very good resistance in the Leh sector, Pyongyang-so, and that whole sector itself. And in the Arunachal sector, they had reached till the valley of Assam, and they were sitting at a pass which is considered very, very important. It's called the Bomdila Pass. If they had crossed Bomdila, they would then enter Assam plains itself. And what happens is, when 1962 this war starts, China was doing all this discreetly. China was doing all of this discreetly. But as soon as the world starts to get to know that China had entered into the Indian sector and there was a war which was happening, with the Cuban Missile Crisis also happening in the world at this point of time, what happens is that China silently, unilaterally retreats. But the irony of the fact is that what they do is that though they retreat from this sector, though they retreat from this sector and go back to this line, they never retreated from this part of the Ladakh sector. And this is today called Aksai Chin. And there is a line which is here, which is not an internationally accepted line, but a basic agreement between India and China, which is called LAC. Called LAC. LAC means line of actual control. LAC. Line of actual control. So we have in both the ears of India, LOC and LAC. While this sector got stabilized, though from time to time China does a lot of drama, China is illegally occupying Aksai Chin and Pakistan is illegally occupied POK. And this is basically the story of Jammu and Kashmir as a princely state, or a what we call as a state. That between 1947 and 1962, somehow the politics and the wars were such that we lost 1947, illegally Pakistan occupied that area, and LAC, China occupied that area. Why did the Chinese revert back? Because once it became international use, they did not want to lose face. That a P5 power, a UN Security Council country was doing all of this in India. Why didn't we get it back? It means we should have attacked and get it back. Sure, you can go and attack a nuclear power like China. Sure, why not? Sure. As defense secretary, you should do it for sure. Which is go and attack China and take LAC. Then when we are going for LAC, let's take LOC also. So why leave Pakistan? वो भी ले लेते हैं. The fact of the matter is, it's not that easy. We also have nuclear. हाँ तो nuclear खेलते हैं ना, game खेलते हैं. Let's send one warhead from here and उधर से उधर एक आने को दे. Nuclear खेलते हैं. अच्छा लगेगा, मजा आएगा. Let's do one thing ना. Let's play nuclear. 1 ton, 3 kiloton we'll send, 5 kiloton they'll send. Then we'll send 8 kiloton. Why nuclear? Hydrogen bomb bhi hai. We should send that also. You never do. Please understand one thing. Nuclear war, there was no winner. Because we are all the same sector itself. Today we drop a bomb on Pakistan. The upper air circulation will be such that the nuclear radiation will come till Delhi and UP. So randomly for random things, we can't be dropping nuclear bombs. Yes, we want LOC and LAC back. Yes, we want POK and Aksai Chin back. But that cannot be at the cost of killing crores of people in India and outside. Maybe not outside, but in India for sure. But what about the truthfulness? Such kill lad rahe ho? Sure. Why are we always compromising on our country? You call it compromise. This is called strategic hold. See, if your answer to every question is why don't we go and just bomb that country, then why did we compromise? Because when it came to 1965, we had no 62, we had no idea what was happening. This war was unilaterally fought by the British, by the Chinese. Unilaterally, they went back also. India was not ready to fight China in 1962. I can say that right now in 2023, you think that India can actually literally, except for nuclear power, if we go India and China, you really think that there will be some victor which will come out of this whole story itself? So see, you are giving me, if as a UPSC aspirant, you are clear, you understand diplomacy, if you understand geopolitics, if you're an educated Indian and you talk about these things, then it's a problem. I will talk about Kargil war. I will talk about Kargil, don't worry. 62-47, we were not in a position to very simply do anything. So we were indecisive. We had no idea. The army was clueless. The intelligence agencies were clueless. We had nothing. Today we have Navik. But that is not the way it is. I'm not saying India is weak. But nuclear warfare is not going to help anybody. Does India hold Aksai Chin? No. India does not hold either of these parts, both illegally occupied by China and Pakistan. That's a simple, straightforward point. If your solution to taking these areas is through war, then there's no point. There's no point. 1 second. Okay, sorry. No. See, you are writing a lot of things. Defense minister. No, I'm not saying just taking. If someone has something mine, I will not take it in return. Then you're not understanding how a country works. Why China support Pakistan? That's a separate issue altogether. Why China not retreated from Arunachal, not Aksai Chin? Because Aksai Chin was more important for them for Tibet, and that is more strategically related to their northern province itself. That means that if it's illegal, but Chinese still occupy Aksai Chin, Indian government has no control of Aksai Chin. In a way, no. Illegally, both areas occupied by China and Pakistan. If there's any benefit of getting the instant, we should go for P5. Why did Nehru give up P5 as a good gesture? We believe that China deserved it more. Now see, ये मेरा है, ये तेरा है. This is my. I know both areas are Indian. I know both areas are ours. The basic point is Aksai Chin and POK right now are illegally occupied by two countries, China and Pakistan. Both are literally under the control of dictators. And simple point is, if you as an administrator think the solution for this is to go for a war, then you don't understand the real impact of wars. If there is a solution, there's a diplomatic one. But I will tell you one thing very clearly. You really think that Pakistan's occupation with POK, Pakistan's obsession with POK has taken it somewhere? Pakistan's obsession with POK has taken it anywhere? The answer to that question is no, zero. They have drained their resources. The army controls everything. There is no democracy. They are right now the puppet of China with $86 billion as debt from China itself. So if India will not think about its people in POK and in Kashmir and in Jammu and Kashmir and in India, and get obsessed in only trying to find solutions for either, then we will, as it is, not go anywhere. Simple point is, we are a democracy. Both countries are dictatorships, Pakistan and China. The solution will come because the people will of POK, the people of Pakistan themselves will realize that this politics is just to basically gumrah karne ki baat hai. It's basically a eyewash. And China does not really gain anything from this. As it is, China took the Oxygen sector to have a Gwadar port, which as it is, the Belt and Road Initiative in Pakistan has been a major failure. So very simply, yes, it's the idealistic tendencies of Nehru which led to the P5 position going to China. That is a very big mistake which he did, and he would be turning in his grave. Wherever he is, he would regret it right now. The point of the matter is, here I'm not, see, we are, you and me are incapable, and I will be very clear in saying it, too insignificant to discuss this here. You are nobody, I am nobody. And this means that this discussion is a futile discussion. UPSC will never ask you, solve POK and Oxygen for us. There are much bigger, much more competent people who are right now trying to work this out. They have much bigger information and much bigger resources in front of them. And if you are so finicky when it comes to power politics, then you really need to tone it down. There's something called emotional intelligence. You can't be sitting in front of the Chinese Xi Jinping and hold his collar and say that the Oxygen वापस दे दे. ऐसे नहीं होता है. So you are going to be future IFS officers also, and you should show the resolve which our Prime Minister shows. That even when he meets these Prime Ministers, he shows that grace and idea. So if you really want an idea and if you really want something, first become something. That your opinion matters or not. Right now, my opinion, your opinion doesn't really matter. And if you try to solve this issue for them, write a letter to the Prime Minister saying that this is the issue, go and bomb China, you will not get a reply also. So don't be a Aaj Tak news analyst who basically has some random data in front of them and give these sermons that we should go to war with them, we should go to war with them. The whole Pyongyang, so the whole Doklam Valley issue could have gone out of hand. India showed a lot of resolve in making sure that the issue was de-escalated through diplomacy. Diplomacy is the only way India moves forward, and 1.4 billion people in India cannot be risked with nuclear warfare from China because they are dictatorships. So both dictators, we are a democratic country, doesn't really matter. So the day you become defense secretary or the chief of army staff or the prime minister of India, I would love to know your opinion. Right now, I really don't care. Can I move forward? I would like to tell you about the 62 war. Yes. So गुस्सा आता है, अच्छा नहीं लगता है. Is it ours, taken by somebody? I also feel that. But I'm not going to waste my time on trying to solve a problem whose opinion nobody has asked for. मुझसे किसी ने पूछा नहीं. That solve the LOC and LOC for us. So stop doing this as a UPSC aspirant, which is to try to solve a lot of things. So very simply, I think and I believe truly that our Prime Minister is more than capable in solving this problem if he wants to. And let us leave it to him to decide. Yes, nobody cares what you and me think right now. So let's be very clear. 62, China occupied Ladakh, that is called Oxygen. And in 47, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, both illegal occupations, both areas India's integral part. Nuclear warfare is not the answer. War is not the answer. That much I have the capability to understand. Okay. Now let's talk about 62. Let's talk about 62. Two developments strained the relationship between India and China. First Tibet and the other one McMahon Line. One issue stems out of the McMahon Line and the other one India giving political asylum to Dalai Lama in 59 itself. And between 1957 and 59, with no access to nuclear technology and generally no access to satellite imagery, We were not able to see how the Chinese were basically occupying and moving forward. It is a diplomatic failure at all levels. It is a governmental failure. It's an army failure. It's an intelligence failure. 62 changed India forever because we had no idea what the Chinese were doing, which was not the way India should have been at that point of time. Now, China started an invasion in the October of 1962, occupying both areas, Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin. The first attack was 1 week. Within 1 week there was a second attack in Arunachal itself, and thereafter 3 waves had come within a month itself. While the Indian Army forces were very good in blocking certain areas without no preparedness in the Western Front, and in the Eastern Front they had reached till Bomdila, but we still held Bomdila. Finally, China unilaterally declared ceasefire and gave up Arunachal Pradesh to take Aksai Chin. Simple point is today, the concept is that Arunachal is always in controversy because the Chinese do politics over it. But Aksai Chin and Pyongyang So and that whole sector is under question because LAC is not recognized. The biggest issue is LAC is not a internationally recognized line. It's an agreement between India and China. That is why you would have heard Chinese move 500 meters inside and then hold, you are standing in front of Indian, you are standing in Chinese territory, this and that. LOC cannot be moved because it's a UN recognized line. LAC is moved from time to time. China keeps on trying to move it forward, backward, because it's an agreement between India. So an internationally recognized line is LOC. LAC is an agreement between India and China. Are we clear about 62? Enough time has been given to 62. I want to go to 65. Okay, perfect. Now 1965 is our old friend becoming over smart again. 1965. Now, basically, 1961, 62, we did not respond correctly. So, within 3 years, Pakistan got an idea that maybe India is the same. Let us take Pakistan. Well, let us take Kashmir whole. So, they have nothing else to do. So, the Pakistani army, and ironically, till this point, the first general elections of Pakistan has not happened. They became a democracy, so-called democracy in 1947, and they had not held their general election till this point. Their first general election will happen in 1970. That will also lead to a lot of controversy. We'll discuss that. But 1965, with the death of Nehru, they now thought that ek kaam karte, let's take Kashmir. So what they do is that they first do a dress rehearsal. And that dress rehearsal is in a place called Sar Creek. You would have seen in Gujarat, the small finger which comes out of Gujarat's map, if you've ever seen it. It's a small finger that comes out like this. That finger which comes out is basically called Sar Creek. Sar Creek is again a disputed area, but it is actually Indian territory. Sar Creek is a very marshy run of Kutch area. And what the Pakistanis first do is they just cross over the border here and try to check how India is responding. But India's response here was very lukewarm because it's a very marshy terrain, very big, heavy tanks can't go there. So the conclusion which came out of the Sar Creek was, when it went to the British and later it was given to India, the conclusion in 1965 war, which in the Sar Creek concept was, in Sar Creek concept, you want to see it on the map. It is here. This is Sar Creek, small area Sar Creek here. Now, the basic conclusion which the Pakistanis come to is India is the same and India is not ready for the war in 1965. Lal Bahadur Shastri and J.N. Chaudhary both said to Pakistan, don't take our response in Sar Creek as the real one. We can fight you at any point of time whenever we want. But Pakistan is Pakistan. Unko to Kashmir chahiye. So what they do is that they now do the same thing which they did in 1947, which is they start to infiltrate the Kashmir Valley and they try to entice the people. that go and fight with India, say that you want independence. But again, the Kashmiri people did not say anything. They said that we're really happy to be part of India. We have nothing to do with you. So what happens is that once the people of Kashmir and POK also disagree with the British, disagree with the Pakistanis, that we do not want to go against India, then the proper infiltration starts from the POK sector. Now, in POK, there are 3 or 4 passes which are very important. One is called Haji Pir Pass, then Uri Pass, then Kargil Pass, Gomal, and Khyber. If you have to enter from the Hindu Kush mountains into the India itself, if you have to cross over the Himalayas, you have to use these passes: Hajipir, Uri, Kargil, Gomal, and Khyber. Now, Lal Bahadur Shastri saw that the infiltration is happening from these passes. And he was really irritated by the way there was a tank invasion and a major invasion in the Jammu and Kashmir sector. So now Lal Bahadur Shastri said one thing to J.N. Chaudhary, who was the army chief. He said, push these bastards out of India, which is push them out or beyond. They had crossed the LOC, push them outside LOC. But he said to J.N. Chaudhary, don't stop there. Lal Bahadur Shastri, unlike any other prime minister, said, go and sit at these passes. So basically, India in 1965 crossed over the LOC and blocked all these 5 passes. And till this point, nobody knows in the world that there's an infiltration which has happened in India itself. And India crosses over LOC and enters into POK and holds all these 5 passes: Hajipir, Uri, Kargil, and Gomal. The situation was such that India was 20 kilometers away from Lahore. It had already taken Sialkot and Balakot sector. Pakistan had not even imagined that India would first stop the infiltration, and then Lal Bahadur Shastri had said, don't irritate me because then I will not stop there. And in the irritation, in the anger of 62 and 47, the army crosses over into the LOC, crosses over into the sector, goes and sits at the Khyber Pass and the Haji Pir Pass. Haji Pir Pass considered the most strategic pass in that regard. Now Pakistan could see that Islamabad is not far away. Lahore is going to fall, Sialkot is going to fall, Balakot is going to fall. So now Pakistan does what it does. It goes to the US and to the British and says, dekho meko mara. And now Pakistan creates a major concept that India is the aggressor. India has entered into Pakistan. They are holding these passes. India is the aggressor. India is holding Haji Pir Pass, Uri Pass. They have reached 20 kilometers away from Lahore. As usual, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan was winning. Now now the situation becomes complicated. The complication is that now US and UK get involved. Pro-Pakistan governments. Now, as soon as US and UK enter, both countries get economic sanctions. We did not have food security at this point of time, so these economic sanctions were quite hard. So the USSR, an all-weather front, stood up. It gave us a lot of MiGs and even T-90 and T-45 tanks at this point of time. Now thereafter, China says, yes, Pakistan is right. Main kuch kar dunga. He was like that, I will do something. This is the aggressor. China said, I will enter. USSR said, Thandarak. Nobody's asking you anything. So stop making these noises that you are also going to enter. No, everybody knows that Pakistan is the infiltrator, but you don't create this narrative where the Indians become aggressors. But the point was, India, when this whole situation comes in, India was sitting at a very good position. more or less 90% of the POK was more or less under India's control. And now Pakistan was basically, we had also entered 20 to 30 kilometers inside Pakistan. But now what happens is once America and USSR enters, it becomes Cold War politics. So we agree for an arbitration in Tashkent in 1966. Everybody is holding their position, ceasefire. But now the USSR says something to Lal Bahadur Shastri, which was very problematic. We were at an advantageous position. So Lal Bahadur Shastri said that I will not give up Hajipir, Uri, Kargil, Gomal and Khyber. But USSR said that if you will not give up your position, you will then seem to be the aggressor only. I have been helping you with a lot of ammunition, a lot of equipment, and your economic sanctions, I have tried to undercut it. But if you will not go back to the LOC, which is the already agreed line, and go back to the Indian border, then I will not be able to further give you any help. And therein lied our weakness, that Lal Bahadur Shastri had no other option but to agree to a non-favorable, disadvantageous Tashkent agreement where everybody went back to LOC. And these bastards got all these 5 passes back. But the 65 war ended on a very good note, which is that the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force and the Indian Armed Forces showed that India was not the same as 62. So when we talk about 65, first dress rehearsal came in the run of Kutch in the Sir Creek sector. There was a lukewarm response because of the terrain itself. On British intervention, both took it to international arbitration where India got it. But unfortunately, run of Kutch conflict gave the wrong signals to Pakistan that Indian government and armed forces were not ready for war. And they paid no heed to Shastri's statement that we were able to fight them at any place and time of their choosing. In August, Pakistan government sent well-trained infiltrators into the Kashmir Valley, hoping to foment pro-Pakistan uprising there. But that nothing really actually happened. Now, taking account of the serious infiltration, Shastri ordered the army to cross the ceasefire line, seal all the passes through which they were entering, which is Uri, Hajipir and Kargil. On 1st September, Pakistan launched a massive tank and infantry attack in Jammu and Kashmir. Shastri immediately ordered the Indian army not to only occupy and defend Kashmir, but to also move towards Lahore and Sialkot. Thus, the two countries were involved in a war without anybody getting involved and nobody knowing about it. The US and the British immediately cut off arms, food, and other supplies to both countries. China declared that India was a successor, made threatening noises. However, so the Soviet Union, sympathetic towards India, discouraged China from going to Pakistan's help. Under the pressure of the UN Security Council, both combatants had a ceasefire on 23rd September. The invasion and infiltration of Kashmir had been foiled. Indians were, however, euphoric over the performance of their army, which had lost pride during the Indo-China wars. India had already emerged much more victorious, much more stronger than this in this episode. And the Kashmiri people had again showed that they had faith in India in that sense. Now, in the Tashkent Agreement, the Soviet Union, Ayub Khan and Shastri met at Tashkent. However, all occupied areas had to be returned to the Pakistanis because they were talking about pre-August, pre-war situation and positions. The fact was in that India would be giving up a lot of the passes to Pakistan back. Shastri agreed to these unfavorable terms because he had no other option, because a war would have been mutually disastrous and would have meant losing Soviet support on Kashmir and the support of the guns and ammunition which are coming from them. The Tashkent Agreement, however, ended on a very tragic consequence, with Shastri being dead after just serving for 19 months as Prime Minister. And this is the story of 1965 war. Okay, can we go to 71? Okay. Now 71 is very interesting because 71 had nothing to do with us for a very long time. A very important point you need to understand here is see, in 1970, two things happen. Pakistan finally chooses to go for an election with total 300 seats, 162 here, 138 here. These are the parliamentary seats. 65 is Kargil. No, Kargil is 1999. Now, this war shows that we cannot survive on wars but require money. Yes, that is true. Okay. Now, see, if you look at the Pakistanis as it is, it took them 20 years to decide that they will go for a election. But all was not very well between West Pakistan and East Pakistan generally. And the reason for that is that, see, these are two very different cultures. In a way that East Pakistan is Bengali Muslim and they are Urdu based Muslims, which is quite a major difference when it comes to ethnicity. Over and above that, there was an unsung rule that West Pakistan is the real Pakistan because Jinnah resided in that sector itself. And when it came to budgetary allocations, development, East Pakistan was going backwards, West Pakistan was going forward. And because of this discrimination, because of this issue, the Awami League had been formed in East Pakistan under a person called Mujibur Rahman. And the person who wanted to be the prime minister and who was the president was a person called Yahya Khan. And the party who was fighting from this side is called the PPP, Pakistan's People's Party. And this was under the father of Benazir Bhutto, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Now, in 1969-70, a major cyclone hit this sector. It's called the Bhola cyclone. Don't go by its name because Bhola cyclone till today is considered the deadliest cyclone in the Bay of Bengal. 5 lakh East Pakistanis were dead, and it impacted West Bengal and Orissa also quite a lot. But the West Pakistanis, these fools, rather than helping their own people in East Pakistan, it was rather Indira Gandhi who gave much more aid to East Pakistan, actually West Pakistan. And in that sense, the Awami League was very pro-India and East Pakistan was generally very pro-India because of the help which was given during Bhola cyclone. And there was more and more an ideological rift between East Pakistan and West Pakistan. And then comes the elections of 1970. Now, looking at the seat distribution, 162, 138, and there are 300 seats, you would need to, the full majority would be on how much? Full majority would be how much? 151. So, in a way, if you can win most of the seats in West Pakistan, and that was the basic way, if you can win in West Pakistan, you can become the prime minister. But if you win in East Pakistan, you can't. Ironically, this was made very clear and very strategically this way because they wanted the prime minister to always be from West Pakistan. Now, what happens is that in 1970, when this election happens, Mujibur Rahman gets 167 seats. He is able to win all 138 seats here and 30 more here. And this fool Zulfikar Ali Bhutto gets only 67. Sometimes called 67, sometimes called 80. Either way, he was never getting a majority. Now, who should be the prime minister? Who should be the prime minister? It should be Mujibur Rahman. But ye pachega nahi inko. It will not be digestible to the West Pakistanis that Mujibur Rahman is becoming the prime minister. So basically, what happens is that because Mujibur Rahman had won this election, in a way, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto will ask Yahya Khan to annul the election, saying that this election was fought in the wrong way. There was a lot of fraudulent things. They nominate a random person from prime minister who will later say that I don't even know that I'm going to be prime minister. And this election is going to basically expose Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's politics and the genuinity of the power of Mujibur Rahman. As soon as the elections are annulled, now East Pakistan says enough is enough. We don't want to be part of West Pakistan, and the Awami League will change its name into a body called Mukti Bahini. The Mukti Bahini was the freedom fighting body which wanted to now become a separate country altogether, which is called Bangladesh. And now West Pakistan will see that East Pakistan is trying to leave Pakistan. So one random day under what is called Operation Searchlight, all the commercial planes from West Pakistan to East Pakistan will be stopped, and close to 1 lakh Pakistani soldiers will be sent to East Pakistan. And now starts the civil war between East and West Pakistan, which was inevitable because of the basic approach and the cultural differences. Now, till this point, India is not involved. Indira Gandhi is chilling. She has no issues. Let them fight as it is. They were going to fight. Something was going to happen as it is. So West Pakistan is fighting with East Pakistan. Mukti Bahini is struggling. India is not involved. India does not want to do anything. Now, somebody in Pakistan said, "Ek kaam aur karte. Let's do one more thing. Let's take India also. Let's take Kashmir. Let's take whole of Gujarat." So some very smart Pakistani got an idea that let's do one thing. Let's do multiple attacks in Bhuj and take Kashmir also. एक ही हाथ, one stone, two birds. एक तीर से दो निशाने. Now, as soon as the Bhuj surprise attacks happen, Indira Gandhi says that कुछ भी करना था, but जयकांत शिखरे का ego hurt नहीं करना. That you could have done anything. You could have done anything. You could have taken any part, whole of Bangladesh you could have taken. But now involving India was the foolishness here. Indira Gandhi was not going to sit there and allow West Pakistan to happen like this. Indira Gandhi will proclaim that the airspace between West and East Pakistan, if I see any Pakistani ship going over this, I will shoot it down. And now the Indian army will be deployed in East Pakistan, and the Indian army will cross over into Bangladesh. We will also be one of the first countries to recognize Mujibur Rahman as the first president and the first prime minister of the independent country called Bangladesh. And once the Indian army entered, there was no chance as it is the Pakistanis would ever have an option. The fact is 93,000 soldiers with no ammunition and no food in the world famous world record surrender. The Indian army and the Mukti Bahini made 93,000 soldiers, Pakistani soldiers, surrender to them on 16th December 1971. Because they had no reinforcement and they had no communication with Pakistan itself, India has the distinction of having the biggest surrender in the world, which we just celebrated yesterday as Vijay Divas. But I give you one very interesting question. If India wanted, it could have It could have slaughtered each of these Pakistanis, 93,000, made them stand in a line and shoot them, and nobody would have said nothing because it was prisoner of war. But it is here that India is different from Pakistan. India could have easily shot every Pakistani who was caught in the 1971 war. But India showed to the world that we are different. We don't hate Pakistanis. We don't hate Pakistanis. We hate the ISI, we hate the Pakistani army, but we don't hate humanity. Killing a Pakistani does not give us satisfaction. It is here that Indira Gandhi showed to the world that when it comes to surrenders, we have the biggest surrender, but we are a responsible power. We are not a retaliatory power. And therefore, the 71 war, which gave birth to Bangladesh as a free country, it was on 3rd December 1971 that the Bhuj attack happens. And when the Bhuj attack happened, on 6th December, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi then recognized the Bangladesh government. And 93,000 troops surrendered to the joint forces of the Mukti Bahini through the instrument of surrender on 16 December 1971, which till today we celebrate as Vijay Divas till today, yesterday itself. 65 clear? Because then we discussed 1999. Last, and then we will take a break and then question session. So where we celebrate Vijay Divas, there is a day that India and Pakistan relation got more bitter. No. Bangladesh and India relationship became better. So every commemoration will irritate somebody for sure. Okay. 1999. So after the defeat in 1965, more or less, Pakistan did not have USSR, USA. By the time they got involved, the war was already over. 1999, the British, the Pakistanis are the British thing. The Pakistani did not have the guts to do anything between 1965 and 1990 at least. But in 1999, they got an idea. And the idea was they wanted to infiltrate in the Kargil, Dras, Mukshok. It's called Mukshok. One second. Mushko, and the Kaksar sector. See, the concept is very simple. There is a hill. It's called Tiger Hill. And the Tiger Hill has a very important distinction. NH1, which is the only link between India and Kashmir Valley proper, from Tiger Hill you can see the whole NH1. Now basically there was a gentleman's agreement between India and Pakistan, and the gentleman's agreement is that in the winters it makes no sense to sit on hills in very cold terrain. In the Himalayas there's no point sitting on the upper peak when there is the winter season. So this gentleman's agreement was that every winters we went down and Pakistan went down, and every summer we go up. But in 1999, what Pakistanis did was they dressed as civilians. They started to now, just 1 month before the agreement would kick in, they started to go up the Tiger Hill, and in the Dras, Mushko, Kaksar and Kargil sector, they started to go up the peaks. Now, it was basically a shepherd who found or who saw these people going up, and he was able to see that these people did not have Indian Army badge. So it was a shepherd who told the Indian Army that there was infiltration which was happening in 1999, that somebody was going up the Tiger Hill and most of these hills before even India would go. Now what happens is India sends a very capable but unfortunate captain, Captain Saurabh Kalia, with 5 members as a search party to go and check in this sector. And the Pakistani army will capture Captain Saurabh Kalia. He will be martyred and brutally murdered. Now we knew that the Pakistanis had already entered. And now Atal Bihari Vajpayee is going to confront Nawaz Sharif and say that what is the Pakistani army doing on these peaks? So Nawaz Sharif will say that no, it's not Pakistani army. These are Kashmiri freedom fighters who may be fighting with you. Now he created a new idea of Kashmiri freedom fighters. So then Atal Bihari Vajpayee said to Nawaz Sharif, if they are Kashmiri freedom fighters, they would have maximum AK-47s. How is that they have rocket launchers? They have machine guns, heavy machine guns, which is military grade machinery. So Nawaz Sharif says that I have no idea. These are not my men, but they were Pakistani army. So India had one major issue, which was to prove to the world that Pakistan was involved, because we went to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton said that we need proof. The US. Now, the problem with Tiger Hill is that from India's side, it is very steep. If you go up from this side, it is very steep and it has no cover areas. So now Atal Bihari Vajpayee, as soon as shelling will start from this side, they will start to shell the NH1 and try to disrupt any movement from the NH1. Atal Bihari Vajpayee will move the Kashmir deployment towards Kargil sector. And the Indian Air Force will now start to do wonders, because in this non-acclimatized area, the Indian Air Force now starts to hit the Tiger Hill in different moments and try to also hit the artillery which was sitting behind the Tiger Hill. And they were shelling and saying that these are Kashmiri freedom fighters. That Kashmiri freedom fighters also got access to weapons grade, military grade artillery. Now, in these sectors, 2 things will happen together in Tiger Hill. 2 things will happen together in Kargil war. At one time, we will hit a sub-post here and we will recover 3 bodies, out of which the Pakistani ID cards will be recovered. Pakistani army ID cards will be recovered. At the same time, we were able to recover 3 ID cards. A very now a legendary, and in multiple movies he's been now portrayed. Captain Vikram Batra will do something which was not possible, which was to go from the southern steep wall of the Tiger Hill, and in an 11-hour battle between the Indian army and the Pakistani army on the Tiger Hill, India will recover Tiger Hill, and when Atal Bihari Vajpayee will take all these evidences to Clinton, Pakistan will start to lose face internationally also. So we will recover Kargil. If we recover Kargil Hill, if we recover Kargil and Tiger Hill, we recover Dras automatically. And now Bill Clinton will call Nawaz Sharif and say that you were saying it was Kashmiri freedom fighters. These are your army itself. And based on the decisive leadership of Atal Bihari Vajpayee and his very street smartness when it came to using Indian Air Force and Army together, he will be able to make Nawaz Sharif make his men retreat, and the Kargil war will end, which is the last major war we fought with Pakistan. The Kargil war broke out in May of 1999, 60 days up till 26 July. Local shepherds were the first to report that there was Pakistani infiltration in the Ladakh sector itself. The Indian army set up patrol units with Captain Saurabh Kalia, who was captured and brutally murdered. Heavy shelling from the Pakistani side will start on 29th, and it was meant to cover fire for the engagement with the Indian troops to allow infiltrators to enter into the LOC itself. Infiltration occurred in Dras, Mushko, and Kaksar sector. The Indian Army moved its troops from Kashmir Valley towards Kargil sector in the mid of May. The Indian Air Force engaged with the infiltration by the end of May itself. Intense fighting on both sides. In early June, the Indian Army released documents that confirmed the involvement of Pakistani Army, which rubbished their claims that there were Kashmiri freedom fighters there. Even though initially taken by surprise, the determined Indian Army recovered many positions and posts on the other side. Our soldiers fought bravely in the hostile environments and mountainous terrain at very high altitudes. On 4th July, the Indian Army captured Tiger Hill after a battle for 11 hours, and next day Dras was recovered. In a major breakthrough, this in turn led to internationally Pakistan losing face over the vital proof provided by the Indian Army. The US, led by Bill Clinton, asked Pakistan Nawaz Sharif to withdraw his troops. On 5th July, Jawad Sharif will basically start to withdraw his troops itself. The pullout will start on 11th, and on 14th, AP Atal Bihari Vajpayee will announce that Operation Vijay was a success, and on 26th, everybody is going to go back. And with this, we finish our course, your modern post-independence, modern 22 modules, 21 modules, and 3 modules of post-independence is over. Done? Okay. So we now take a break. It is 3:36. We'll come back at, we can come back at what? You want to come back at 4? We come back at 4, and let's take the doubt session, and we'll finish it by 4:30, 4:45. Done? We'll come back by, okay, let's do one thing. Let's come back by 4:10. 4:10. See you. Welcome back. So you would have seen that I've made the second class disappear, the 431. This is going to be, you can't see it in your dashboard. So I hope that this is our doubt session now from this point forward. So I want to ask again, Shraddha, Nikita, Ashay, are you here? No. So if you have any of your questions, you can just post it here. I'll read it. I will systematically answer it. No, Lakshay, don't have to do a case study on Sikkim. Anybody has any doubt? Don't post it in the doubt section. Post it in the today doubt session for modern India or post independence. Both. Okay. Growth of communism in India, you don't have to do a case study. Whatever I've taught you in modern India with regards to 1906, 1936, 1939, 1946 elections, the direct action day and the politics of 36 to 39, 36 to 46 is more than enough is more than enough. Why Jinnah wanted Bangladesh, it's so far. No, it's not Jinnah giving Bangladesh, it was Mountbatten having this idea of dividing the two areas. What is dominion status? Dominion status means when you give partial independence to a place, partial independence means dominion status. You are a dominion of a country if the ultimate executive power is with the different country. UK and India dominion would mean that India would have everything, but the last power, the last ultimate executive not be president, but the queen. Okay. Why did James I give monopoly for Syed for an indefinite period? Because he could see that there was a profitable business developing from there. Why Farrukhsiyar gave 1717 to the English? Farrukhsiyar wanted money, he was in a fiscal crisis, and the British were desperate to expand their power. Difference between Northwestern Province and Northwestern Frontier Province. Northwestern Province included Pakistan, Afghanistan both. Northwestern Frontier Province was basically the Afghanistan sections. Punjab became the bigger province. Punjab was renamed as Northwestern Province. 1 second. How Mehlwari is extension of Zamindari? Mehlwari is extension of Zamindari because the village headman acts like a Zamindar. And everybody under him acts like a tenant. So it's an extension of Zamindari because headman becomes like a Zamindar. Iberian Union. How Iberian Union? Iberian Union is when Portugal went into the control of Spain. When it went into the control of the Spanish did not take care of Portuguese colonies, so lost a lot of areas. What does mercantilism mean? If I think we've done it in world history also, it is domination. It is domination through trade. Did Albaka abolish Sati only in Goa, not in India? Treaty of Amritsar and perpetual friendship, same thing. Dalt Khalsa, same thing. Adam Smith theory is that there should be no intervention of the government in trade. It should be free trade. Right, Sayed? What was the need for regulating act? Because the East India Company was becoming stronger and stronger, more powerful and powerful. So there was a need for, as it became a territorial state, they had to do it. Perfect. Separate electorates divides a nation. Separate electorate divides a nation because when you give separate electorates, you are creating a area where only certain people can vote and certain people cannot vote. With disenfranchisement, it separates the people. Aimom, explain Meherwari and Rohitwari in short. Rohitwari is when you go and settle with the Rayyat, he gives you the rent. Mahalwari is quite different. Mahalwari is rather than going for the Rayyat or the Zamindar, you go for a Mahal. Mahal could be 3 villages. You tell the headman how much they need to give, and each headman then tells the peasant how much they owe. So the British only deal with the headman. How much more do I need to study for GS option apart from GS? Rani, GS history, GS history and optional history is quite different because world history part is much bigger. Modern India is more or less clear, but the question depth increases, so you would have to go to a bigger level in that regard. Okay, previous question Kartika we've already discussed. At present, can we acquire Exaichen by friend relation with China? Sure, if there can be diplomatic transfer. Now 370 is diluted, so can we get POK? 370 has nothing to do with POK. POK is illegal. POK 370 says, and basically 370 applies to whole of Jammu and Kashmir. Whole of Jammu and Kashmir is Indian. So it's not that POK gets affected by 370. It's rather good for our national security that there is no state government there. But most probably statehood will going to come there. Why Indian soldiers were more British in Indian army? Still they ruled. But still disunity is not. Why Indian soldiers more in British army and still they rule India, but still disunity is not a problem for them? Employment is something everybody wants. Employment to the British Indian army was actually a good employment. Why in our history of freedom only we can see lot more in about Gandhi, not to others? Shabir, that is not true. I've talked about everybody. Gandhi has an important role in making Indian nationalism mass nationalism. Is it really overland? Silk Road, economic belt, maritime is topped due to Indian region is not accepted. No. The reason why Belt and Road Initiative has not worked out generally is because the nations which had debt are not now able to repay back, and the areas which were seen to be very profitable have turned out to be useless. Our independence, Lakshmi, Shabir, all questions answered. Sabir, sir, after our independence, Britishers who work in India all were removed from their post. Not necessarily, but yes, 99%. By the time as it is, the ICS was mostly Indian only. Tribal revolutions are first nationalist. Why? No, I'm not saying that. I don't know why you're saying that. Nationalism is totally different. Tribals are tribal issues. Ratwani is under which Governor General? It's Wellesley. Which world history is, sir, is world history included in prelims? No, Ashish. Ramya. Indo-Maratha War, I am not, obviously, there's nothing called Indo-Maratha War, there's something called Anglo-Maratha War. But I'm not discussing the whole Anglo-Maratha War here. That is not the purpose of this discussion. You already have the recorded video. How British and other East India Company war happened, what are all the wars? Again, Ramya, I'm not repeating whole modules for you in questions. I'm not going to do that. This is Asha, this is the doubt session. I'll take up your questions. Welcome. I'll take up your questions, Ashe, just after I finish this list. Role of women in freedom struggle, I've discussed again. Role of European women in independent India. European women in independent India, Indian independence. Again, you have Annie Besant, you discussed that. You have given me very big questions, random. I'm not going to discuss that in that way. That is not the purpose here. So for the, as it is role of women, you can talk about the CDM, the NCM, every movement there are women which I talked about, from Sarojini Naidu to Aruna Safali, that is there. And Annie Besant is important for as a European women. So test on 24th is full course test. Full course, everything history. 1857 was the culmination, big and small. Do we need to mention tribal peasant? Yes, Devyani, yes. Again, Khilafat movement, random, you will say Khilafat movement was against the Treaty of Sevres, where the Khalifa was going to get, in a way, dishonored or disrespected. Okay, Ashay, I have your questions. I'm going to answer you. Just wait 1 second. What from the war? What type of question can we expect? Proper prelims question, or generally a question has already come, which is why did the British win so many wars without fighting too much? What all battles fought in Panipat? Rohit, I don't know what you mean by that. Okay. Is subsidiary alliance and doctrinal alliance before the direct wars? It is after. Once direct wars start, later Wellesley and Dalhousie will bring in. Okay, Ashay. I hope I've answered everybody till this point. As I said, this whole discussion is not to discuss a whole module. That is not the purpose of this discussion. And I'm going to discuss a whole theme with you. Every video is recorded, so you have an opportunity to actually go there and see it. So every 21 sessions of Modern India have been recorded. So I hope, Ramya, you will understand. Okay. Do we need to send our questions? You send it here, Lakshya. Okay. Ashay, you have also done the same thing. What is white mutiny? When the British officers of the East India Company army rebel, it's called White Mutiny. How Jallianwala Bagh was a response to 10th. How is it correlated to Punjab explosivity? Again, Asha, you can easily go through that video, but you are asking me this random question. 10th April, there will be violence. 5 Europeans will be dead. So response is going to be Jallianwala Bagh, where the British will retaliate. How Home Rule League compelled the British to initiate constitutional reform? Because they were not one seasonal thing happening every December. They were able to create a little bit of pressure, but no real impact that way. What is poll tax? Every ex-indentured labor has to pay some tax to remain free. What is Imperial Legislative Council? Legislative Council at the center is called Imperial Legislative Council. Robert Clive, known as the conqueror of India, because he is the one who expanded in Bengal, who is the one who expanded in Madras. Who is Swarajist? No changer. There's nobody called pro changer. Swarajist is the one who says that let us remove the NCM boycott. No changer is the one who says that we should not give up on that boycott itself. What is Lahore conspiracy case? Two cases are there. One is the one which happened basically in the Gadar movement, and the second one is Bhagat Singh's movement itself. Bhagat Singh. What is gravitational pull? Shifting of pressure belts. Enso and Red Sanders is geography, not history. So that I will be happy to give to Mukesh sir. Okay. White man's burden, which is the burden on white men that they need to civilize the world itself. Strategy for ancient medieval optional. I am really finding it difficult. Have to go through the standard books. For ancient, you have to go through Upinder Singh. That is a very important book. For medieval, if you go through Satish Chandra, part 1, part 2. Just go through it. You have to make notes. Optional history. The depth increases for ancient medieval. You can use any standard book. You email me about it. I'll send you the book list. Can you explain idea about time? Are all subject specific questions done? Shraddha, Nikita, are you here? Subject specific questions done, because now you're going to generic. Subject specific questions, whatever we've discussed in class. Bhagat Singh bombing is not called Lahore conspiracy case. Saunders murder is called Lahore conspiracy case. That's called legislative bombing. How can I revise whole modern history now effectively? I'm going to come to that. Tell me subject specific questions if somebody has. I hope I've answered everybody. What is the Congress? O has been disbanded. You said that partition didn't depend on Gandhi's wish. Gandhi had no control after 1940. It is not Gandhi, it is Muslim League who controlled the concept itself. Okay. Anglicanist, Unitarian, same thing. Okay. So no subject specific question to anybody. The chance to have subject specific questions is going to close in the next 5 minutes. Please tell me. Then I will go to generic questions. So the offer is closing quickly. Why INC was successful party supported by people, but other parties could not survive in the British Raj? Because it was more broad, it was with very important personalities, and it was all India level. Other parties had smaller, narrower interests. That is why. In Zamindar system, can we mention that big landlords were also exploiters along with British? Thus, colonialism. Yes, yes. Because zamindari system, zamindars made every peasant or every farmer into a tenant. Over exploitative bidding was also done by them only. Why Nizam was not overthrown by British in the Raj? Osman Ali still had authority, because before the British could ever annex Hyderabad, 1857 happened, so they moved away from the idea of annexation towards paramountcy. Anybody has any other doubt? Lakshay, why haven't you sent this to IS Live? There are so many questions. Subject specific questions. You can, Pavitra, do that, don't worry. Okay, then they've not updated it. Okay. Why RIN mutiny in last leg of British? Because RIN was the mutiny of the British Army. In a way, the sailors and the Royal Air Force, the RIN and the Royal Army rebelling means the most important pillar of colonialism was gone. Not able to open Governor General PDF. That is a separate issue altogether. 1 second. Whilst I'm posting that, please Write your subject specific. Generic ones, I will tell you what to do. One second, I'm posting that link. It would be opening. You are not just able to open it. It can't be that it's not opening, but sure, why not? Ask me straight only. Yes. Okay. Now posted. What do I do by books and journal? Go through one each day. Learn one each day. That's it. Princely states were under crown. What was that called? Paramountcy. Indira Gandhi was suspended, and how she proclaimed emergency. Because it's called fate accompli. The COM can do it. Yes, Meshak, I can do that. Considered father of the nation because Subhash Chandra Bose called him that. Okay. Now to the generic question, what is imperialism? It is domination of a country through to get concessions. Okay. Now comes the generic discussion which we need to do, which is what about timetable and these things. See, had Indian kings be used harsh treaties like Britishers, why did they wait for wars? Had any Indian rulers used the harsh treaties like Britishers? Lakshya does not, the question doesn't make sense. Okay. आगे आशे एक बार लिंक खोल के देख लो क्या है. What is the link about? It says newspaper governor generals. You can always email me doubts later. That's not an issue. You can do that. First, let's listen to me. When it comes to timetables, what is expected from you is very simple, straightforward, which is that you should be doing every subject each day, either 1.5 hours if you can allocate. That is what is expected from you. You should not overburden yourself. 8 to 9 hours is more than enough. Effective. And till February, your mains and prelims preparation should happen together. However, after February, you have to become prelims oriented. Second, how do I revise? Revise, which is start the PPTs. First revision will always take time. For 2024, 25, 26, 27, 20, 30, 50, 60, 70. Till 3000, 8 to 9 hours, 10 hours is more than enough. Sleep 6 to 7 hours, that is important. Before the examination, you can make it, for example, 5 to 6 hours. 1 month before, not before that. Second is, the more time you have, the more revisions you have to do. How many revisions are enough? As many as possible. Can I do with 1 revision? No. Do I need to do 4 revisions? No. The point is how many revisions you need. Revision is totally your call. Second thing, when I talk about how do you do revision, first revision will always take time. First reading can take you close to a month or 15 days. Then the revision time should come down. If you are revising every time same time is taking, then there's no point. So you have to revision always takes time initially, then it reduces automatically. So when we talk about timetable, see, if for a 2024 person, making a timetable right now makes no sense. You have already reached December. Just cover everything as quickly as possible so that by February your full course is covered and you can go to mock test, answer preparation and prelims oriented revision after February. For 2023, 24, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. You have a lot of time. you should be a specialist by 1 year before your preparation. Where if you have to give the examination 2025, by end of 2024, your examination syllabus should have been done 2 to 3 times. So there's no slacking off here. The more time you have, the more revisions you do. So for a person who gives it in 2025, you should be a specialist by your optional should be over by February, March. Your optional revision should be happening between June, July, and your prelims syllabus should be done twice by December. And you should have revised 3 to 4 times before you go to the examination. The more time you have, the better you have time to revise. Third thing, revision will always take time initially, then it will get reduced automatically. Any other question? How to manage all subjects together with previous subject revision running? That is what is the art here. If you will do 1 to 1.5 hours of each subject each day, divide it properly, you will be able to do it. This is a problem which everybody has. You are not unique into that. Every subject needs to be done once properly, and then you start to integrate it into your timetable. 1.5 hours of 2 hours, if possible, should be allocated for each subject according to your year. Prelims test series is not the indicator of your preparation. Don't do that. Cover the syllabus as quickly as possible once, then revisions will start. PTS should be seen as a way of evaluating, but also as a way of adding things to your preparation generally. Choosing optional is not my call. Nobody can tell you that. It is your call. It should be something which can be managed without any idea previously. It has to be done at a BA honors level. There is no good and bad optional. And at the end of the day, you have to be very clear in understanding that nobody can force anything on you. You should have aptitude. You should like it. You should be able to do it for multi-year. Rani, I don't take optional right now. There's a recorded version of history optional, but live optional doesn't happen. Paper 2 is covered by me. The recorded version has paper 1, some people other. Paper 2 is me. Soon, maybe by if you can wait 2-3 months, within 3 to 4 months, we are figuring out something for live optional. How to analyze our weekly test along with it? What do you need to analyze? Give it, check where you are not very. Tests are to check your weakness. Should not be happy, should not be sad. Wherever you are weak, revise. Pavitra, you have to still go through Nitin Singhania, and you have to go through the PPTs of world history and in the post independence with my book, because that only has ancient, medieval, modern. Chesta, the SME is not here. You ask me this in a class where the SME is there, he'll send you the link. Timetable is given somewhere where it says timetable. You can check the yearly timetable. If somebody has the yearly timetable link, can you send it to me? I'll make it public. Here. Thanks, Shabir. How to approach your book effectively for beginner. Ashay, where do you get these questions? How to approach? Read it. As a beginner, read it. Go through the PPT, then read it, or read it and then go through the PPT. Either way. So, what should I say? Aak khol ke padho. Any book is always effectively approached like that only. Either you read the PPT first and then the book, or the book then the PPT. The book has been written in such a way that you can do quick revision, and there is no nonsense in the book. That was the purpose of my book, which is it has all tables, everything is already condensed. So you can see that everything is already given in condensed form. It is a book which can be read for quick revision. That is the basic point. If you already know the PPTs, you've already been with me in modern India, so you're not a beginner at least. So Ashay, after all of this, if you call yourself a beginner, then there's a problem. 1 month of modern India, not a beginner. Any other question? Perfect, Ashay. Great. Any other questions, subject related? If not, I would like you to now rest because you have a day tomorrow also. Your time is important. Enom, check the chapter of Mauryas. It would have Magad. Rise of Magad factors is not something important for net. That is why it may not be there. But if you can see the PPT is enough. How much should I take for one answer? 7 minutes, but you can't do it right now. So rather practice as much as possible. The time will come down. How to read and remember this PDF? One each day. It has been very difficult to Constituent Assembly to complete its historic task of drafting the Constitution. Experience gained from it. This is a polity question. It would have been difficult for the Constituent Assembly to complete its historical task by drafting the Constitution for independent India. Experience gained from 1935. Obviously, it was difficult. India was burning in north. Partition had happened. I've told you the challenges. I know newspaper journal you're saying. One each day. Perfect. Thank you, Saloni. Thank you, Mesak. What can be the conclusion? The conclusion will be that they did a very good job even after having Government of India in 1935 to create a very beautiful constitution. Answer writing mein problem hai, you have to just make sure that you have to practice. Now, see, there's no end to this, so I will rather end it myself. Firstly, thank you. Secondly, it has been a very wonderful journey with you. 1.5 months. You will now you've already gone into, most probably, you are with me only ancient medieval, or you've gone into geography. I hope modern India and post-independence is clear. I hope you are basically confident in these two areas. Thereafter, post-independence, don't worry about it. Only after prelims. Before that, modern India, make it proper. PPT plus NCRT is enough. PPT plus NCRT plus my book is very good. PPT plus NCRT plus Spectrum, very, very good. Now, don't worry. Practice, be disciplined, and try to just keep realistic targets. And if you do that, you will cover everything. Done? Kartika, we've already done it. You've joined late. I showed you it in the first 10 minutes itself. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. It was a pleasure. And if you have any doubt and issue, you can always email me. I'll get it sorted. Don't worry. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.